Welcome to SAM Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. It is a pleasure to welcome Lieutenant General Rajendra Singh Sujlana, who's authored a book. He's filled in a great, a great part of history there. Peasants to Warriors, a travelogue of Sikh soldiering over 250 years. He and I go back to the India Squadron of the National Defence Academy. And when we first saw each other, he didn't have any beard or mustache. But since then, he's not just been a great soldier, but also, he became a historian in his own right. Commissioned into the Sikh regiment, he went deep into the history of the Sikh regiment, which has a very great history in battles fought by Indian Army under the British, and more important, after independence. This particular book, I feel, is it's a great chunk of history which is provided to a generation like Gen Sujlana and mine, which was we were denied. We were denied the history of our own country. Really speaking, it's only, I think, now in the last few years that some effort is being made to put it together or to bring it, and it's going to be a long process. But the important aspect of the history of just before and after independence is something which we were denied. Peasants to Warriors, a travelogue of Sikh soldiering over 250 years, is a book which explores the transformation of the Sikh community from peaceful farmers to a very formidable fighting force. It covers a period from the first martyrdom of the rise of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, from the first martyrdom to the rise of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, examining the key events, figures, and military strategies that shaped Sikh soldiering. It delves into the socio-political landscape of the Punjab region, highlighting the challenges and the persecutions faced by the Sikhs that ultimately led to their militarization. It is this militarization that was required to save the Hindu race. It profiles figures like Guru Nanak, Baba Nanak, the Indian spiritual teacher, mystic, and poet, who is regarded as the founder of Sikhism and the first of the 10 Sikh Gurus. Then Guru Arjan Dev, the fifth Guru, who authored the Adi Granth, and which later became the Granth Sahib. He was martyred. Guru Tegh Bahadur, the ninth Guru, founded the Sikh religion. He was beheaded. Guru Gobind Singh and Banda Singh Bahadur, commander of the Khalsa army, emphasizing their roles in shaping the Sikh identity and military traditions. Without going much more, it's a very solid tome of 300 pages and goes into a number of parts and covers a very, very important period of history, a very significant period of history. I'll leave it to Gen Sujlana to bring us, up to date with how he was inspired and what all he's brought out. All yours.
Right. Thank you, Anil, for all the kind words and give an introduction, a wonderful introduction to the book. But like you asked the question, what has been my inspiration to get on to writing? My inspiration was my late respected father, Col Gulcharan Singh, who himself was a great historian, and I followed his footsteps into the Sikh regiment. We both commanded the same unit, 3rd Battalion, the Sikh Regiment. Besides that, my grandfather and my great-grandfather had also served with Sikh troops. And my great-grandfather was Sardar Bahadur, Honorary Captain Jwala Singh, Indian Order of Battle, Order of British India. So that was he was a very renowned individual. They were all in Gujarat, where he got his murabbas in Pakistan. And of course, everyone knows about what happened after 47. Leave that aside. So 4 generations of our family, we have rubbed shoulders with the Sikh soldier. And then, of course, I spent 40 years in the Sikh regiment, and I enjoyed it. I was colonel of the Sikh regiment, and it was a great honor for me. Having said that much, I must tell you, this is my 3rd book. My first book was my salute to the Sikh regiment. It was a legacy of valor, an illustrated history of the Sikh regiment.
Little higher, please. Wonderful.
This is just before I retired. I owed it to the regiment. I gave it to them. Then few years down the line, I came across another gentleman, Dr. Rupinder Barar, who's a renowned specialist, heart specialist in California, Yuba City. So our interests were common. And so we got on to write the next book. It was a joint authorship. This is titled Along Came a Warrior, Banda's Dharam Yudh and the Sikh Theory of Just War. So this has cut across very many barriers, and we have spoken about the just war, Dharam Yudh, and various other facets of the Banda Bahadur. And of course, leaving that book aside, now I'll come straight to the present book, Peasants to Warriors. Now, as you have rightly highlighted, this book is about in 6 parts. It has about 15 maps. It has 4 illustrations. And as an army general, I think writing a book like this without maps makes no sense. So therefore, I've got about 15 maps in this book covering various operations. Now, how did we turn into soldiers? And that also well-renowned soldiers the world over. I had to put that across, but I must also place things in the correct perspective. As Anil, you had highlighted that much of our history was disrupted. It is a known fact that the Persian authors and even the British authors were not fair to the Indian history, and more so to the Sikh history also. Rather, I must quote this famous writer, Alam Muzaffar. He writes, the despising and disdainful adjectives in Persian records are perhaps indicative of the caste community and social status consciousness of the compilers of these sources rather than of the exact position of the Sikhs. This is what he writes. He's himself a Muslim author. And further, Thornton, who wrote A History of Punjab, also mentions, just giving the latter part, a Muslim writer is not to be implicitly trusted. Now, with those false paradigms which were set by them, we had to put them also into the correct perspective. So that was another starting point. So I'll come on straight away to the part 1 of the book. The part 1 of the book, like I've called it, it is the religious inheritance of the Sikh soldier. I must also clarify that this is not a book on religion or of comparative religions. My lack of knowledge on both these subjects precludes me to make any such claim. But I had to quote a few things to convey my point. And more so, I think the Guru Granth Sahib, it is for the entire world to understand, read. It is meant for all societies. It conveys a lot of thought process of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and other gurus up to the fifth guru. And from that, I have culled out what is, so much so that the soldiers also must pull out from this. So I've culled out things. I've gone through the Guru Granth Sahib twice to write what I did right. So things like obedience, loyalty, discipline, fearlessness, and ready martyrdom or sacrifice, they all come from the Guru Granth Sahib. And when you talk of fearlessness, the Guru Granth Sahib writes two words: Abhay Dan. Abhay is dar. Uska dan diya कि you will be fearless. It is written there. You have to be fearless. And Abhipat is written there in the Guru Granth Sahib. So with that as a background, and how to go around, fighting with good morals, have an ethical code which was set by the gurus and which continued till as late as you can think of. But I just want to highlight one aspect. Langar, we often talk about langar. And everyone thinks, because you get correlated to that. No, that is, but you must put langar in perspective. Langar, to my opinion, is a corporate social responsibility of the Sikhs. We are a corporate who had to do this as your social responsibility. And the person who caught on to this and wrote in his book was Indu Bhushan Banerjee. And I quote him: the ideal of service and the inculcation of spirit of brotherhood were equally significant features of almost all the religions in contemporary India. But it was only in Sikhism that the sense of corporate unity gradually developed. So that is the backdrop. So we have to see langar in a more, better perspective as a corporate social responsibility. And there are other factors. Otherwise, I'll finish off the time in this first chapter only. But I'll quickly now move on to part 2. And the part 1 just covers broadly up to all the 9 gurus. If I'll just briefly touch upon the first martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. And when he was martyred, and later on another Britisher who wrote, his name is John Clark Archer. That was what would give the fillip to the peasant holder. And he writes, a flame was ignited. In the greater garden, plowshares were beaten into swords and pruning hooks became spears. That is the sort of thing where it started. It was a fellowship of reconciliation, was assuming martial fate. That is how they started switching over to soldiering. Then, of course, Guru Har Gobind Ji, the 6th Guru, followed. Then there was another change. He introduced the concept of Miri Piri, which for everyone's knowledge, it is the spiritual is one part, that is the Piri. And then, of course, is the Miri, which is the temporal aspect. He wore 2 swords. So when he was asked to put a seli on his head by the Guru, he said, no, my seli is going to be the swords. So spiritual swords on the right and the temporal on the left. The spiritual thing will always be prominent. So that is what he conveyed. And he also created the Akal Takht Sahib, or the timeless throne of the Almighty. Then, of course, he said these chaps will not agree. So he left Amritsar and he went to Kiratpur. Then, of course, years followed. Then the Guru Tegh Bahadur's martyrdom came in. And that was during the time of Aurangzeb. And he gave his head there. And he gave it, his sacrifice was for dharma. And he gave his head without a sigh, without any regret. He said, I have to save the dharma of this nation. And as another author, Tarlochan Singh, writes, okay, no one has performed such an act as it was done by Guru Tegh Bahadur. And that is why we call him, someone calls him Dunya Ki Chaddar, someone calls him Hind Ki Chaddar, and all these names which have been given to him, and rightly so. But one thing I want to highlight is both the Gurus, they displayed non-violence. Non-violence total. We talk of this concept much later today, but this was given by both the Gurus. You are non-violent, but stick to your whatever your dharma is. So that is what the part finishes with that. Then coming on to part 2 of, basically it covers Guru Gobind Singh Ji. How he went about, as I call the chapter, stealing the hearts of the Khalsas. Of course, before he made the Khalsas, it's a very interesting thing. He fought against the hill Rajput Rajas. And because he felt that he was not strong enough, he left Anandpur Sahib and went to Paonta Sahib. And I call the Paonta Sahib as the first training base of the Sikhs. That is where he taught them warfare. And that is where the famous battle of Pangani took place, where he defeated the troops of 22 hill Rajas. I have gone on ground and seen the battleground. Very interesting. So anyway, there are other battles also fought by him. And again, Cunningham has put it in a very nice way. I'll just quote him. When he says he's talking about Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he resolved upon awakening his followers to a new life, giving precision and aim to the broad and general institutions of Nanak. In the heart of a powerful empire, he set himself to the task of subverting it. He called for singleness of purpose and enthusiasm of desire. He just put this in these few words, what was, Guru Gobind Singh's intent. Then, of course, his battles go on. After he came back from Paonta Sahib, back to Anandpur Sahib, the defense of, Anandpur Sahib, and then he goes on, leaves that place. He goes on to other Chamkaur Sahib, and then Muktsar, and then he goes down south, Nanded. And that is where, he's assassinated there. And overall, it was, he started the Dharam Yudh. And his Dharam Yudh, I must say, must not be taken as a war of aggression against any religion. It was protection of religion and fought on moral principles. So that is what and there Guru Gobind Singh found Banda. That time he was a Bairagi, so he named him Gurbakh Singh. But he said, I am your Banda, I am your slave. So that is the nom de guerre just stuck onto him, Banda Bahadur. So then he gave Banda 5 prominent leaders to accompany him. He gave him his escutcheon, 5 arrows from his personal lot, and then he gave him 20 odd men, and he said, now you go and again cheer up the Khalsa and bring them back to form. And it's a thing. And who was Banda? A Bairagi? But what a Bairagi? And we must also say, someone says, Bairagi kaise? No. But look into history. Our ascetic warriors were well known. They used to protect their temples, marts, everything. They had a typical way of fighting. A very interesting aspect to study. How they could, yell and shout and charge, hit and come back. When we talk of striking and getting back, it was taught to us by the ascetic warrior. And he was there for 30, 40 years, and that is why he must have learned his, tactics of what he wanted to do. And look at his, his leadership as a military man, or he was a very good guerrilla leader. After leaving Guru Gobind Singh from at Nanded, he took 1 year to travel from there to his base, which was Khargoda in present Haryana. 1 year. And what was the route he took? He followed the route through the lands which were occupied by Marathas and the Rajputs, because both were in revolt against Aurangzeb. He also, to hide himself, joined a caravan, a tanda. It's called tanda. This caravan is coming. He hid himself there and came here. So that's why he came here. And if you want me to stop at any time, you must tell me. Anil?
I think just a few points to add to your work is very intense and very well researched, but some things which one would like to convey to viewers is that if when we say we have denied history, it's only in when you go to a gurdwara and listen to a little bit of the part or the ardas, that you get little nuggets of important nuggets of history you get there. Unfortunately for us, first came the Mughals, then came the British, and a lot of our own history of you call it, I don't know, Hindu also is not Sindhu. Sindhu is the term. We come from the land of Sindh, the Indus. And there's a great history to all of us, which was I won't get too emotional about it. But there is the great loss, and we have to thank guys like you who have filled in great blanks of it, or filled in put a lot of dots together. We owe it to all a lot of authors who have now delved into periods of history which have been lost to us in the past. And on a personal note, I was commissioned in the 19 Madras, from which I changed over to 4 horse. That was history for me. But in my troop, the first troop of tanks that I commanded, 4 horse has 2 Sikh squadrons, and the third is the Dogra squadron. And in B squadron, tanks have names just like ships. So Banda, Bahadur, and Baz, these are the 3 names of the, one never forget them. I won't, there's so much more one can talk about, about. Please carry on.
Yeah, Anil, what you rightly said, Sapta Sindhu. Sapta Sindhu is what we were called in this area across. Of course, there is again dispute which were the 7 rivers. We will not talk about that because then we will delve into another part. But there is a little dispute which are the 7 rivers, but we leave it to a side. I've written it in the book. Now, just furthering on to Banda Bahadur, where he came to Khargoda, then how he went to Chapar-Chiri, where he won a great battle, and whether that the local leader there from the Mughals, how he defeated him, Wazir Khan, who had cruelly murdered the 2 younger Sahibzadas. So finally, he took revenge on him. And Chapar-Chiri was another masterpiece, which you have to read the book to see how he went about to destroy the massive Mughal setup there. Now, thereafter, he set up his headquarters at a place called Mukhlisgarh, which was earlier known as Mukhlispur, then it became Mukhlisgarh. Now it is known as Logar, the fort there. So it is still existing there. And the history of Logod also have given how it came about, who's responsible. That's all given in the book. So we will not dwell into that here. But what he not only did he fight, he gave his the farmers their dues, which most of the people don't know. He set aside the mansabdari and zamindari system, and the farmers started getting the 3/4 of their revenue, and only 1/4 went to the government, which a factor which remains. They have taken wrong things, that he was cruel, he was this. Yes, he was cruel. I will also quote that a little later about what he thought was. But his last battle, before I tell you about that, is worth mentioning. Everyone says it's Gurdas Nangal, but the actual battle where it took place was a place called Badewali Teh, which is about a mile away from present Gurdasnan. There he held on for over 8 months against the mightiest empire on earth, the Mughals. It was no small deal to stand against them. For over 8 months, he was there. So I'll just give you two quick readings of Banda, so that it will put others also, if in case they are keen to read, they will have to go it. Like Hariram Gupta says, in the history of the world, the Banda Bahadur, should not rank less than Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Nader Shah, Ahmad Shah Abdali, or Napoleon Bonaparte. He was the first empire builder for the Sikhs, a great national hero for the Hindus, a scourge for the tyrants, and a man of compassion and generosity for the Muslims who supported his political cause, not his religion. So that highlights everything written by Hariram Gupta. Now, further, I must also, when you mentioned about his being cruel or something, so this is again a very interesting quote. When he was about to be killed, there was this Daula Muhammad Amin Khan standing there. So he, before he was killed, he asked him, he says, your present demeanor exhibits the signs of wisdom and a sense of justice. How were you led to such ways that you did not consider the consequences of your deeds? He asked Banda this question. And this is, I'm quoting from Sikh history from Persian sources. And Banda replied, in all religions and communities, whenever disobedience and defiance of God, in excess of all limits, begins to be displayed by man, he's talking about the Mughals, the embodiment of rebellion takes place. And the true avenger, that is God, then appoints someone as cruel as I to impose penalty on the man for his sins, so that he may become the means for effecting retribution on that community for its misdeeds. Afterwards, for the punishment for his, that is his, the retributor, that is Banda himself, he bestows victory over him to a man of authority like you, so that he too obtains a punishment for his deeds in this world, as we and you are now witnessing. So this is what Banda wrote. Go ahead. I have done what God had asked me to do, and I've done it. So this is about Banda. He's a great guy. And of course, after he died, then the next 50 years were terrible for the Sikhs. They had price list on the head, 10 rupees. If you bring someone alive, 50 rupees, and it went up to 100 rupees like this. So they all left their homes and they went into the jungles and the deserts in northern Rajasthan to stay there till they could recoup themselves. And totally homeless, totally leaderless, they again reunited themselves. And from there they came and struck back. And through the times of cruel people like Mir Manu, Nader Shah, Abdali, Zakaria Khan, two massive Ghalu Goras, that is the genocides which they inflicted on the Sikhs, they again came back. that we won't leave you. And the missiles came about. But missiles did come about, but then they were from where the disunity among the Sikhs started. They started fighting among themselves to gain areas. And I must say, there's a very good saying in Punjabi about Mir Manu. Oh, Punjabi, I'll just say the initial words, Mir Manu Sadi Datri. I will just say, that Mir Manu the sickle, the more he cuts us, the more we grow. That is what the slogan was of the Sikh, Katti Challo, Asi Wadi Jamange.
Yeah.
So now with that, having gone through this period, then I came on straight. I have summed up that chapter on the state of Sikh soldiering at the end of the 18th century, before I went into the period of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Now with that finishes, Hanji.
No, I'm afraid we don't have much time. There is so much
Right.
that you have, which would be, I look forward to reviewing the book also. But about one thing that strikes me is that when we got partitioned by the British, we have more Muslims than Pakistan.
Yeah.
But the Pakistan army inherited a lot of what is, what has come out about the Mughals, the barbarity, the,
Yeah.
cruelty, which the Pakistan army practiced
Bilkul, 100%. Yeah.
number of times. Anyway,
Anyway,
I much that there's so much more one would like to, owing to paucity of time. I'd like to thank you for a very, very important and a very interesting and bit of history that you've just given us a few nuggets of very important ones. One looks forward to reading and reviewing the book also. And all the best to you.
Thank you. So kind of you. And look forward to your review and whatever you have to say about the book. And of course, the latter part I've not covered, the part 5 and 6, which is about Maharaja Ranjit Singh's reign, and of course, the Anglo-Sikh Wars. And
That
was
is another very interesting, because as a final comment, I'll say that the Sikhs only understood those who could beat them. They're the ones they appreciated. And the ones who beat them are the Sikhs, the Manipuris, and the Gurkhas.
And I must, of course, we don't have time, but when Gurkhas were initially, defeated by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, he appreciated their gallantry. And when they were defeated, he said, hold on, let them go. Let them withdraw in peace. That affects so much effect on the Gurkhas that many of them joined the Khalsa army. And Bal Bahadur was the chap who also was killed in one. General Bal Bahadur from the Nepalese army was also killed here, a Gurkha. And by the way, some of the dresses in Gurkhas today have been taken from the army of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So, okay, as you say, no time, we won't talk much. There's so much to talk and so much less time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anil. So kind of you. Take care. All the best. Do well.